Hello everybody, it's Kara from Wild Book Garden, and today I'm here to talk about some of my reading plans for September. You might think that after doing the amazing readathon, like participating in that in August, where I read a truly ridiculous number of things, you might think that I would take it easy, but no, I'm not doing that. These are very loose TBRs though, so I'm not holding myself to them too strictly, but I am very excited. I'm going to be participating in Short Story Septober, round 8 of Mythathon, and Series September. I will link all the info down below. Mythathon is created and hosted by Foxes and Fairytales. Series September is created and hosted by Krista at Books and Jams and Sarah from Sarah's Nightstand. And then for Short Story Septober, I heard about it from my friend Mariana at Mariana Mas Books. She's one of the hosts. The creator is Evie at She Was Only Evie, and then Stephanie from Miss Richards Reads, Anitha from Anitha Grace, and Pete, who I can't find a channel for him. They are also co-hosting. So let's go ahead and just start chatting about the things that I might be reading. I really am trying to focus on, I don't know, just whatever I'm in the mood for, which you might think that's what most people read all the time, but not necessarily. So I'm gonna start off with, let's start with this Short Story Septober, which as you can tell from the name, it goes from September through October, so it's a 2-month readathon, and it's just about reading collections and or anthologies, and you can make it as, you know, strict or as loose as you want. If you just want to read one anthology or collection, that totally counts. But there's also a bunch of prompts if you would like to do those. So for the science fiction and fantasy collection, I picked Touchstones by Stephanie Burgess. By the way, collection is a bunch of stories by the same author, anthology is different authors. And some of these prompts ask you to pick one of each, and some of them you can just choose one, although as I said, they're very loose about the prompts, which I appreciate. So you can see I have a bookmark in this. I actually am 130 pages into it, and I just want to get it done. I haven't read anything from it in a while, and I don't know, Stephanie Burgess is one of those authors where I always feel like I should love her books, but I often don't. So I'm hoping I at least find a few stories that I really enjoy from here, but this is a gorgeous cover. And then for the science fiction or fantasy anthology, I have The Starlit Wood, New Fairytales by, edited by Dominic Parisian and Nava Wolf. This is one of those really beautiful books that has the cover design just printed onto the cover. I don't know, there's something that's so fancy looking about that when it's a matte cover. And this is a bunch of science fiction and fantasy authors, probably mostly fantasy. And so these are all, I think, fairy tale retellings, which I love reading. And some of the authors are ones that I already know I enjoy, like Naomi Novik, Catherine M. Valenti. I've read the other collection that they did, The Midnight Dream. I think something Dream, The Mythic Dream, which I really did not care for. There were not very many hits for me in that one, but I'm hoping that I like this one better. We shall see. Then for a horror collection, I might read Jackalope Wives by T. Kingfisher. It's not actually a collection of horror stories, but I know, she writes, this is one of her fantasy collections, I think, but I heard from my friend Kelly that there's at least one or two in there that would qualify as spooky or horror, and I'm pretty, I don't know, I'm not a horror reader in general, so I'm pretty loose with that prompt. And then for anthology, I have another one that's not actually horror, but I think there's some spookiness and some mysteries, and that is The Grimoire of Grave Fates by Hannah Alkoff and Margaret Owen. This is such a cool concept, and I feel I'm hoping, even if the way that the whole story pulls together isn't quite my thing, I feel I will at least enjoy what this is doing. I don't know, that's what I'm hoping. So this is basically a short story collection, except it's all telling the same story. I should have said an anthology. So there's a bunch of different authors who are each writing one chapter that is from the perspective of one of the characters, but it all comes together into this one mystery. I think maybe, is it a headmaster at a school dies or something? And also this is a fantasy book as well. So we've got fantasy, mystery, and I feel there's going to be some spooky vibes. If nothing else, I feel being a murder mystery kind of qualifies it, so that's what I'm doing for that one. Then we can choose a literary collection or an anthology, and y'all know I do not like the term literary fiction versus genre fiction. I think that is an absolutely ridiculous way of describing books. I'm sorry to break this to the Booker Prize Committee or whatever, but every book has a genre. Literary is not a genre. It's a contemporary or historical fiction, or very, very rarely a fantasy. All literary books that I have at least come across can be classified as one of those. But anyway, rant aside, I'm basically ignoring what I think we're supposed to do for this prompt. So one of the arguments people will use for like literary fiction, for that being distinct from other kinds of fiction, is that there is a quality in the writing, like a higher level of quality, and also that the writing is like a more important factor, which again I think is silly, because like so many books that are not considered literary have writing that would be by those standards. So I just picked a collection that I know I enjoy the writing style. Like I just find it very seamless and it feels effortless even though it's not. So I picked The Scarlet Circus by Jane Yolen. This has an introduction by Brandon Sanderson, which I think is very interesting. So I read, what is it? The Emerald Circus I read by her previously, and even though there were a couple of stories that I really didn't care for, the majority of them I really enjoyed, and I really liked her ideas, and I love her writing. So I'm very excited to get to this collection. I know that they've gotten like mixed reviews, but like I said, I feel like I'll enjoy it. Then for a classic collection or anthology, I have one that, like, I don't know if this ever happens to anybody else, but I have pulled it for a couple different TBRs and I didn't end up getting to it. And because of that, it hasn't made its way back to my regular bookshelf space. So it's here somewhere. I will find it when I'm ready to read it, but it's silly. So I picked Phoenix Fled by Atiya Hussein. I really enjoyed Sunlight on a Broken Column by her, which is a novel, and this is a very, very short collection of stories from her. I think it's only like around 100 pages, and I think it's the only other thing she published, which is sad, but I am excited to read more of her writing. Then for a translated collection or anthology, this worked out perfectly because I'm actually currently reading The Sea-Ringed World, Sacred Stories of the Americas by Maria Garcia Esperon, illustrated by Amanda Mijangos, and translated by David Bowles. I'm really enjoying this so far. This is sacred stories from a bunch of different like native tribes and groups across both North and South America. And I think that's so cool. I am really liking it so far, and the like design and the illustration I'm really enjoying. So this is translated from the Spanish, and yeah, that's just been really interesting so far. And then finally, for an indie or self-published collection or anthology, I just realized I meant to double check this. I think this has to be a small press. But I picked Botanical Folktales of Britain and Ireland by Lisa Schneidow. This was actually a birthday present from my wonderful friend Hannah from Ball Gowns and Books. This is another beautiful cover, and I'm really excited for this. So this is exactly what it says in the title. I really enjoy reading folktales and that kind of thing. So I think these are different folktales that are in some way connected to the natural world. That would be my guess, or maybe like they're themed that way. I don't know. I'm not really sure, but I'm just really excited to get into this, and thank you again, Hannah, for the present. And yeah, this just looks super interesting. Okay, so those are some of the short story collections and anthologies. Let's go ahead and jump into my plans for Mythathon. I'm gonna save series September for the end of the video because I feel like that is the one that I have the most options for. So let me get my other book stack here. Okay, so the way that Mythathon is working is you have a few prompts that are basically required. Like they've made it so that you can choose to do only a few prompts, or you can do more prompts. So I will link the info down below. I chose to do more prompts, of course. I didn't do all of them though. Also, I should have mentioned that for the short story Septober, there were definitely a couple prompts that I ignored, which they encourage. Okay, so getting into Mythathon, the first prompt is River Styx, read a book about a journey. And this is another great way to get one of the currently reading books off my list, because I am only a little ways into The Hidden Palace by Helene Becker. This is, how many pages have I read? Not that many. Yeah, I'm like 70 pages in. So this is the long-awaited sequel to The Golem and the Genie, which I love. That's one of my favorite books. And this came out like a year ago, maybe more than a year ago, and I obviously still haven't gotten to it. Because that's the kind of person I am sometimes. But this is a historical fantasy set in like around like turn of the century New York. And at the point I'm at in the book, there has already been quite a lot of journeying, so it definitely counts for that. Then why do I keep closing my notebook when I need to use it immediately? The second prompt is Cerberus, read a book that has a dog-related word in the title. So I picked The Bone Spindle because, you know, playing fetch with a bone, dogs burying bones. The author is Leslie Vedder, and this is a Sleeping Beauty retelling that also kind of mixes in some Indiana Jones vibes. And this is another one that I'm actually currently reading. I'm on like page 54, and it wasn't that I wasn't enjoying it. I've mentioned that I've developed this really bad habit of reading like just a little bit of a book and then realizing it's not quite what I'm in the mood for, and then I just like put it down and ignore it. So I want to read some of those. Number 3 is The Plains of Judgment, and that is to read a book that has some kind of 3 theme. And I picked Into the Spotlight by Carrie Hope Fletcher. I have my bookmark ready to go. So this is one of the books on my 12 books, 12 friends list. My friend Becca from the Book Sanctum picked for me to read this. And as you can see, there are 3 main characters on the cover, so I'm going to count that. And this is quite short. I think it'll be really lovely and cozy. Then number 4 is The River Leth, a book that you keep forgetting about. Now I love this prompt, but I actually had a hard time with this because it's pretty rare for me that I will actually like forget that I have a book or that I want to read a book. Like, I'm pretty in touch with my physical TBR. Even though there's a lot of books on it, I do tend to know what I have. But one that I've had for a little while now that I intended to read pretty soon and I just haven't yet, is A Curse Dark as Gold by Elizabeth C. Bunce. Oh, this won the award, the William C. Morris Debut Award. That's pretty cool. So this is a Rumpelstiltskin retelling, and I heard about this from Book Rat Misty, and just the way she talked about it sounds super interesting. I feel like me and Misty tend to have very similar tastes, especially as regards like fairy tale-esque kind of books. So I'm excited for this one. And number 5 is, I can't read my own writing here. It's that Gate of Ivory, I think, and that is to give a book a second chance. So for that one, this worked out well. I picked The Knife of Never Letting Go by Patrick Ness. This is the first book in the Chaos Walking series, which is a dystopian series that I have like almost unhauled multiple times just because like this series could go either way for me. I've heard very mixed things about it from friends of mine. Like, some people love it, some people really did not like it at all, but it is the book that Olivia-Savannah and I are going to be discussing for our next episode of my Not a Genre book club, so I'm very excited to have a specific reason to read it. Olivia-Savannah really loves this series, and I'm really glad to finally have like an actual concrete reason and plan to read this. Number 6 is Persephone Grove, read a book by a female author, and I picked This Doesn't Mean Anything by Sarah Whalen. This is a romance. I think it's also set in college. I know that's something that a lot of people talk about wanting, and our main character is realizing that she's asexual, and she's in this like study group or something with this like upperclassman guy who he's kind of annoying, but they end up like becoming friends and liking each other, and then she maybe starts developing romantic feelings for him, which is very complicated because Nick, this guy, is allosexual, so he's not ace. And I heard about this from my friend Annalisa Ely, and it sounded really, really good. Also, it's an indie published book, and if you buy it from her Etsy store, she like signs it, and like look at all of that decoration. I think that's beautiful. So I will link that if you would like to buy it like direct from the author, which I think is cool. Obviously, Etsy is not exactly the same as buying direct. So anyway, I am very excited for this. I have seen like a couple people thought it was a little long, but if I'm enjoying my time in a book, and especially if I'm enjoying like the couple or the main characters, I don't mind if a book is long. Number 7 is Hades Palace, and that is to read a book that has gold, silver, or bronze on the cover. And I feel like this is just the TBR of perfect timing, because me and my friend Yvette from Book Cave already had plans to buddy read Silver Nitrate by Sylvia Moreno Garcia in September. So Sylvia Moreno Garcia, we know, I love her. She can basically do no wrong in my eyes. Like even the books she writes that I'm like, this is not really my thing at all, I end up really enjoying or really appreciating, usually both, because I just think she's incredibly talented. So this one is, let's see, set in the film industry of the 90s in Mexico City. I don't know, I think this seems like more similar to, what is it? What's the title? I have it right behind me. Velvet Was the Night, in terms of like the sort of noir vibes that I'm getting. But yeah, I know it deals with film a lot. I really don't need to know that much about a Sylvia Moreno Garcia book. And then the 8th prompt that I chose to do is Elysium Fields, read a book by a favorite author. You guys, I have a review copy of The Scandalous Confessions of Lydia Bennet Witch by Melinda Taub. Melinda Taub wrote Still Star-Crossed, which I don't think it's exaggerating to say I'm obsessed with that book. It's one of my favorites. I talk about it all the time. It is sadly out of print. I'm hoping that we get a new print run because she has a new book coming out, so maybe they want to take her backlist book as well. But I'm so happy and thankful that I was given an arc of this. My review is going to be going up on September 26th, and I cannot wait. So this is obviously a Lydia-focused Pride and Prejudice retelling, or kind of reimagined story. And there's also a fantasy element in it. I don't even have words for how excited I am. Like, the fact that one of my favorite authors finally has a new book coming out after like 10 years or something, I am just living my best life. I'm so excited. I also think this is incredibly cool that Tamora Pierce blurbed this book. Like, that's amazing to me. Okay, and then finishing up with the series September books that I am thinking about reading. At least I'm going to be like pulling from these. So there is a bingo board, there are prompts, but I think this is another one that you can be kind of like, there's a lot of like interpretation you can do, which I think is great. So for the Hyped series prompt, I'm going to be continuing my buddy read of the Pages & Co series by Anna James. This is a buddy read with Helen's Bookhaven and Earl Grey Books, and we've been really enjoying reading the books and chatting about them. This is the 4th book in the series, and yeah, I'm really enjoying this series. It's very like cozy feeling for me. Then for the Start a Series prompt, I have a few options here as well. One of them is Beyond the Filigree Wall by Melissa Wright. I may or may not have just bought the 2nd book, even though I haven't read this first one, but like I'm like 90% sure I'm gonna really love the series. I really hope I am. It's by an indie fantasy author, and I love that under the dust jacket there. This is like the special edition, I think. And I don't remember much about the premise except that it's a slow burn hate to love, which, yes, thank you, sign me up. And it's also like fairly short, and I don't know, I've been really excited about reading this one, and I don't want it to become one of those books where I'm so excited to read it and hopefully love it that I keep building it up in my head and I just like never read it. So I would like to start that series. And then I also have a couple of other advanced copies that I'm going to be reading this month. One of them is a big chunky boy. This is 9 of Swords by Brooklyn Quintana. This is the first book in the Phineas Fogg series, which is a fantasy series, and I've heard a few people reading and reviewing this one who have really enjoyed it. And this is another indie fantasy author, and I know that the 2nd book is either just came out or it's coming out very soon, and I plan to have a review up in September, so stay tuned for that. And then the other one is a mystery book. This is the first in what I think is going to be a proposed series. It's Act Like a Lady, Think Like a Lord by Celeste Connolly. I was lucky enough to be involved in the book tour for the cover reveal, which I do really love this cover, and I also have this arc. This comes out on November 14th, so I do have a little time for this one still, but it sounds like something I'm going to really enjoy, so I might read it sooner. My main character is a young woman whose fiance dies, and she like shocks London society by saying that she's never going to remarry. She has independent means, and so she basically just like does what she wants without like worrying about society because she has the money to do that. But then she ends up uncovering a private asylum where men pay to have their wives and daughters locked away or worse. So this is like a historical mystery with a feminist like lens to it, which I think sounds amazing, so I'm very excited for that. Then for the double prompt, there's a lot of ways that you could do this. I was originally planning to read 2 books by the same author, like in different series. Like I was thinking of picking 2 different series from Tansy Rayner Roberts, but one of the books is like fairly long, and I already have a few long books on this list, so I don't know if that's gonna happen. We'll see. But the one I ended up going with is the Tilly and the Book Wanderers series, because we are going to be reading books 4 and 5. Then there's a recommendation prompt, and I picked Rise of the Jumbies by Tracy Batiste. This is the 2nd book in, I think it's a trilogy, and I remember Ashley from Bookish Realm reviewing this one as part of, it was one of her reading books about Black Mermaids videos, and I remember that she specifically praised this 2nd book very highly, and this was also a gift from my friend Bendy at Caught Between Pages. I'm looking forward to getting to this. I know that it has some kind of heavy thematic elements, but Ashley was saying that it did them really well. Then there is a finish prompt, and I'm so embarrassed. I finally want to finish my reread of the Half a Soul series, or the Regency Fairytales by Olivia-Savannah. One of my favorite series, one of my favorite authors. Like, I have read this before, but I wanted to do a reread before I did like a whole series review, and I just keep not getting to it. But I love this series. I love this book. I love all of them. This one also has a sapphic romance that I thought was really lovely, and this one has kind of a mystery component, which I really enjoyed, and yeah, this is embarrassing. I need to read this. Then there is a new prompt, so that could be like a book that recently came out, a series that you just recently started, a book in a series you just got recently. There's like a lot of ways to interpret it, and I think this might be the category that I have the most books for. So one of them is Have Spirit, Will Duchess by Tansy Rayner Roberts. This is in the Teacup Magic series, which I have been really enjoying, and this follows a different character. So the Lady Liesel Seaside Surprise was a companion book, and I think this one is kind of like that as well. But yeah, I love the way that Tansy Rayner Roberts writes. I enjoy her humor, her characters. I like the quirky way that she does historical fantasy without making it like, I don't know, too silly or too cutesy. So I definitely want to prioritize that one, especially because it's really short. Then I have a very recent purchase, which is Bitter by Kweke Emezi. I thought Pet was fantastic when I read it. So when I saw that this was out in paperback, I picked this up. And this is, I think, a prequel. And I think it follows Jam's mother, I think, maybe. And I know that this is a lot about like activism and the different strengths that people have and using those to create change in the world, and how not everybody's strength, not everyone's contribution is going to look the same, and that's okay. I've heard good things about that one as well. I also want to get to Wild Seed Witch by Marty Dumas. This series has some of the most gorgeous covers. Like, I love looking at them. And so this is a sequel to Wild Seed Witch. I really enjoyed that one. That one is, I think, a really interesting kind of different take on the magical school trope, because it's more like it's like kind of a magical finishing school over the summer. I don't know. Oh my god, look at that little kitty. That is so cute. And yeah, I don't really know much about like the specifics of this plot. I just know that I really enjoyed the first book, and I think that this one deals more with like some of the messy like friendship relationships from the first book. And I also really enjoyed that the main character, she has a beauty YouTube channel, which I think is super fun. And then the last one I have for this prompt is The Piper's Promise by Leah Cypess. This is the third book in the Sisters Ever After series, which I have been loving. These are such interesting and creative fairy tale retellings. This one is The Pied Piper. It's a retelling of The Pied Piper, and like the premise for this series is like retelling fairy tales and imagining if a character from those fairy tales had a younger sister. So this is younger sister of the Pied Piper. I have been really enjoying this series, and I'm also really excited to hear that there's going to be a fourth one. I think that comes out in like December, and I think it might be a 12 Dancing Princesses retelling, which I love. So very excited for all of those. Then for the triple prompt, I did not pick 3 books from the same series. Instead, I decided to pick books that were either in a trilogy or they were book 3 in a series. So one of them I have here is The Stars of Summer by Tara Derman. This is a sequel to All Four Stars. This is a trilogy. It's about a young girl who ends up sort of accidentally becoming a food critic. And she really loves cooking and food and all of that. Her parents do not, though, and so that, you know, causes some friction. But this second book is set over summer camp, and we'll see. I enjoyed the first book, but I hope that we have less of the conflict stuff that kind of like bugged me about that one. It was mostly her parents just being like so over the top in how like anti-cooking they were. I also want to read Thursdays with the Crown by Jessica Day George. This is book 3 in the Castle Glower series. I talk a lot about Jessica Day George and how I feel like she's so good at like cozy middle grade fantasy. Some of her books are like younger YA rather than middle grade, but this series is definitely middle grade, and I just love her books. They make me happy. I'm excited. Yeah, I actually enjoyed book 2 even more than I thought I would, and even more than book 1. So I'm really looking forward to continuing. And then finally I have Into the Wind-Racked Wilds by A. Deborah Baker. This is the third book in the Up and Under series. I actually was gifted this by Bethany from Beautifully Bookish Bethany. What I really want from this book is justice for my boy Avery. I don't know if that's gonna happen, but I really hope so. Yeah, I just love Avery, and I don't think he gets enough appreciation. And then for the old series prompt, this is going to be part of our Circle Opens read along. Speaking of Bethany, she is the one who is hosting that, and I'm so excited to be a co-host for that again, along with Bree from Locked Booktition, Ashley from Bookish Realm, and Shay from Shay Geeks Out. So this is book 2, which is Street Magic. And so this is the sequel series to the Circle of Magic books, so they're a little bit older. These are definitely more YA rather than middle grade, and I loved the first one. I have given every every book in these two series so far, I have given 5 stars. Like, I love these books so much. This is by far my favorite Tamora Pierce thing I've read so far, and I just can't wait. This is Briar's book. This sequel series is about like the kids kind of going off on their own, and they end up finding other kids to train, and picturing Briar as a teacher is like hilarious to me. So I think that's going to be really interesting, and those books deal with like such big ideas and like important topics in a way that I think is just really, really accessible and well done. And then finally, the last prompt is chunky. So you can pick a chunky book in a series. You can pick a series that has a lot of books in it. That is the option that I went for. And once again, I have my copy somewhere, but I keep putting it on TBRs. And because I do that, I don't know where it is now, but I will find it, and I'm going to be reading Soaring Flight by Melissa McShane. I would really like to finish this series by the end of the year because I only have 2 books left in it. I've been really enjoying this series. I haven't picked up one in a while, but like, I love them. It's historical fantasy set around the Napoleonic War, and I just really love the way that Melissa McShane like writes her main women, and I also tend to like the way she does relationships, and I think just like the story and like the creativity with like the little parts of her world building, I just think is like very, very cool. Yeah, so I'm excited. I do not love this cover. Like, I tend to really love the covers of the series. This one I think just looks a little bit cheesy or silly, but I do think the book is going to be really good. So yeah, those are the many, many books that I'm going to be pulling from for my September reading. Let me know if you're participating in any of these readathons. Let me know a book that you're excited about, any thoughts on the books I'm going to be reading. It's like quite a stack, but as I always say, like, I just like having a lot of choices ready for me, so I can kind of, you know, pick from those and read other things too. So this is not like a TBR that I genuinely think I'm going to read the whole thing in the month, but we'll see. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you soon with another video, and I hope you love the next book you read. Bye!